I wanted to jump on the Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma, because it brought up something that when we had your brother on, I believe the first time we had your brother on, remember he asked us a question about, like, what do you think the downfall of I don't know if it was like the world or society will be, and then everyone said their different things, but I was like, cell phones will be the death of this, because I gave my reasons or whatever. Mm-hmm. Watching The Social Dilemma has made me 100% believe, yep, we're dying because of these little devices right here. But it also brought up something that I feel like no one wants to really believe, but it's clear that this is what's going on. So if you watch the Social Dilemma, pretty much the whole aspect or the backdrop of the movie or the documentary is basically that social media is the biggest threat to society, because you're being controlled by algorithms. Like, everything from what you watch to what you purchase to the advertisements that you get, it's all algorithms, right? And the backdrop of the documentary it was kind of cool. Like, they had the documentary, but then they had like a little mini movie in between, like, the scenes of the documentary, right? And it was kind of like, it was based around this family, and one of the characters, like this high school boy, he's in high school, so he just broke up with his girlfriend, and he likes another girl, and all these things, right? And there was something that happened where his mom had bet him. It was like, hey, if you don't look at your phone for a week, I'll buy you a new screen, because he cracked his screen or whatever, right? And he was like, okay. So in the time that he isn't looking at his phone, like, all this stuff is happening. Right. And then the girl that he likes ends up, I don't know if she gets with another dude, but she's like taking pics with another dude, right? So he loses that bet because he's back on his phone, right? But there was an interesting statement that was said in the documentary that I kind of wanted to bring up. Someone said, algorithms are making people think they're always right and not willing to consider other points of view. And when they talked about that segment of social media, they were like, people think that, when they go on these Twitter rants or when they give their opinion on social media, because of the things that they see or like the likes, the retweets, whatever they get, they believe that the world thinks exactly like them. And they're like, this is completely wrong and fabricated, because the people who see that stuff is already predetermined by the algorithms of what you like. So, prime example, if you're a Trump supporter and you support Trump, your feed will look different from someone who does not support Trump. That's why when these people get on the online and argue, it's so crazy, because it's like, okay, this person doesn't see what the fuck's going on. But it's because social media isn't allowing them to see what the fuck's going on, because they're just seeing what their world is being fed to them, which is, the world is fine, everything is great, there is no issue, racism is a myth, Black Lives Matter is terrorism, like all this shit, right? On the flip side, if you are anti-Trump or Black Lives Matter or whatever, your version of the world is completely different. It's what you see. So everyone is like, Black Lives Matter, or you see all these cop killings, or not cop killings, but people being murdered by cops, all this stuff, right? You see that. So when you get online and spew out your point of view, you're only speaking from what you've actually seen, not from what the other side has seen. So this whole aspect of like who's right, who's wrong, is actually being controlled by your Instagrams, Facebooks, Twitters, all that shit. It is like, they basically said, none of us have an original thought anymore. It's all shit that's just being recycled back to you from like the first 5 posts you've seen today or whatever. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that. I thought it'd be a good like discussion on, do you think that has a lot of validity to like what we see today, and why there's so many arguments of people clearly not not being non-biased or like being impartial?
No, move on. Next time. You're wrong. That whole documentary was bullshit.
It was bullshit.
No. Yeah, of course that is. And I was like, when you were saying all that shit, I was like, on my feed, I make it a point not to unfollow people just because they have a different point of view, or
right.
they support Trump or they support whatever, because I need, even though like it annoys me, I need to see what the other side is like feeding themselves, you know, or talking to themselves or whatever. Because if you only know half the story, you're setting yourself a failure. Right. Because you could be like, whatever side you're on, you'd be like, man, I see all this shit happening on the feed. I'm going to go out and start this movement too. Like, I'm going to start my own movement and blah, blah. And you go into it thinking you have all the support in the world. And then when you get out there and you know, IRL, the fucking algorithms aren't on your side, aren't like just... the algorithms aren't shielding you from shit you don't want to see. That's when, you know, fucking you get your ass kicked in the street. You know, shit like that happens where you fall on your face. So yeah, there's a shitload. Like, someone told me like they saw the documentary too, and they were like, Mark Zuckerberg wanted more subscribers from Tokyo, from Japan. And the people in charge of all that stuff were like, you have no idea how easy that is. All we got to do is turn up a dial and whatever, and start showing them more stuff over there, and they'll start following. Right. And it's just, to me, it's not that, well, it is scary. It's just, personally, it's not that scary because I feel like I'm at least somewhat self-aware of that stuff. So it's just, like, don't fall for it the same way you don't fall for when you see advertisements of something you were searching up on your computer, and then you see a promoted ad on Instagram, and it's just like, you know what's happening. You know they're listening. You know they see your searches. So it's the same thing for your general feed. It's just not labeled as promoted. Right. So you just got to keep that in mind. But I get that most people don't. They don't want to. They want to just be like, I'm right, and everyone agrees with me, and how can anyone disagree with me? I'm so right. How can I be wrong?
Look at all these likes.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, it's stupid.
Yeah, that whole movie it brought out the fact that kind of what we've been saying this whole time, which is the world that's like happening today, and the reason why people are so argumentative and they don't want to actually take into account anything is because we're being conditioned to not take into account anything. And at the end of the day, and this is kind of something that I wanted to really throw out to everyone who's listening and who will watch this on YouTube or whatever. When you guys disagree with something that we might say, cool. That's fine. Yeah. The thing that we're always trying to bring to like the world, or just make you guys see, is that there is another point of view. But you don't have to just completely be turned off by it because, it's not what you believe in, or it's not what you are accustomed to and everything, because you lose the ability to be able to, once again, empathize. Because in your world, none of this is happening. And if you think about it, the most time we spend probably throughout the day is on our phones. So if you see every day your world being like XYZ this, XYZ that, it's going to be hard to tell someone, hey, this is actually going on. Because you're going to be like, no, it's not. I'm looking at it. No, it's not. You're lying to me. You're lying to me because
I don't see it on my feed.
Yeah, right? And there's so much stuff that, to me, would really be, I think, eradicated if we just chose to not go on the phone so much. But the chances of that happening are so slim because now we're all just connected to our phone. Everything that we look, see, think is cool, honestly, is, from this documentary, it's just being fed to us. A lot of this stuff, they kind of question, is it you that liked it, or did the algorithm make you like it? Yeah. And to me, that was just, it was a crazy thing to think about, that, hey, you like this artist. Why do you like this artist? Do you think it's because of their music, or do you think it's because so many people said that they were dope, it made you want to listen? Then you listen because all these people saying that they were dope. Now in your head they're dope. Before you even really got a chance to actually sit down with the music, this person's dope. And I just think that that's a wild concept for everything, because like all these influencers or like people who are trying to be tastemakers, they all kind of they live in that world, but I don't think they know that they live in that world.
Well, yeah, nobody realizes they're living in a bubble,
right,
of their own making or of an algorithm's making.
Right.
So it's just, I hate it, but even with documentaries like this where they show you like some unbiased truth to all this shit, it'll be like, oh man, did you see like that popular thing that was trending, blah, 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 and then after it's not trending anymore, go right back to their bubble of self-making.
And the funny thing about this documentary, right, it's clear that I think, which is weird, I think the powers that be are trying to like really not have people watch this, because everyone knows, you go on Netflix, the documentary, by the way, is on Netflix. You go on Netflix and you watch something. If you don't finish it, you come back, it'll come up on your continue watching for blah, 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 right? I've watched this, I'm still not fully done with it, but I've continuously watched this for the last 3 days. Every time I go back to my Netflix, it's not there.
That's weird.
It's not there. I have to search it.
That's really weird.
And then I go to it, and it's like, could you want to continue watching it? Yeah. But it's actually not in the continue watching, and I'm like, but it's funny because you go to it, it's been a top 10 for like 2 weeks. But they don't put it in and I'm like, it's because they know what's going on. They're like, hey, shut the fuck up. Don't tell people this.
You are blowing up the spot.
What are you doing?
We're supposed to be on the same side.
We helped you. You created us.
Why do we fund this movie?
God, we're done. We didn't think people were going to actually listen to this.
We got to stop saying okay to everything that comes to our doors.
Shit, this is bad content. But it's really interesting because I want to know how many people are really going to change after watching it, if they choose to watch it. Because it's clear that in that documentary they made it a point to be like, yeah, Facebook literally helped an election, and they knew it. That's why they pushed what they pushed.
Yep.
Or Instagram has led to so many teenage and like young adults, like depression, freaking suicides, all this stuff, right? And it's like they know and they don't care. And I'm like, damn, that is crazy, because literally before, people will blame the Kardashians or whoever for like America's really weird, unrealistic thoughts of beauty, right? But if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty of it, it was social media, because we made it a thing that now everything that is considered beautiful, I'm going to give it to you every way, shape, size, how many times I can do it, every different color. I'm just going to show you it, which is going to make you want to do it now, because this is beautiful. And before all that shit, there was none of that. Like, I've talked about it before, but
it wasn't so. That's the thing. I think we have to keep clarifying that it was still happening back in the day. It just wasn't so easily accessible, and it wasn't thrown in your face 24/7.
It was happening, but it was on a level of you had to be basically privileged to see it.
Yeah, and if you were privileged, it would be like long breaks in between seeing that stuff.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? Because right now you go on your phone, you can look up a whole bunch of models, and you see all that shit, and it'll start to curve your view.
Right.
Back then, it was just like you get maybe a couple pictures, but it was very finite. With the cell phones, it's infinite.
See, I don't know, just because we were.
I was back there. I was adult back then. I have not aged. I saw Dwayne as a young kid. I was like, that's going to be my new friend. Cultivated. What was the thing you said? I planted the seeds. Waited until he became 18. Had my way. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there you go.
But
I was his first.
His last. His everything.
I was his algorithm.
Take this algorithm, girl.
Get that tattooed on my fucking dick.
But it's I've always watched like stuff from like 90s or whatever when they talk about the supermodel era and they talk about the magazines and they said all the magazines everyone looked the same. I'm like, to me that's the version of social media because they were saying like this skinny white chick is the standard of beauty. You have to be this, right? Now because we're basically done with all like real like I can't even think, literature publications or just like magazines and shit. That's pretty much for the most part done with, right? Everything now is on your phone. So now it's like, okay, literally I can, if I look at a chick that I think is fire, in 20 seconds, as soon as I refresh my feed, I got about 5 girls that look just like her. And it's because the algorithm knows, like, you liked her. You stayed on that picture for like 3 minutes. So we're gonna show you as many of these girls as we can. And it's just crazy because then it makes you think, it's like, do I really like that girl? Or do I just like what
I've been like, telling me? It's been shown to me.
Yeah, so now I like it.
Now I like it, yeah.
It's everything is just that everyone should watch that shit. That shit, to me, hopefully will start some kind of movement for people to get off the phone, man. Yeah. Just chill out. Do not go on that shit.